How many hours a day are you spending on Zoom calls or video conferencing? Yeah, a lot. I had a group of people a few weeks ago who were saying they had up to 10 calls a day. And therefore, it's important to ask, how do I read the body language of others in this format, which is slightly new for me? Stay tuned. Today, we're going to explore, how do you read body language on Zoom? When it comes to reading body language in Zoom, there are three critical areas, and today we're going to explore each of those areas and how it may give you insight into the emotions that another person is feeling at the other end of that call. Stay tuned. Whether we are in person or virtual, when we're reading the body language of others, really what we're talking about is interpreting a flow of data that is coming to us. You see, as human beings, wow, we get so much data coming at us, and we only have the capacity to read a limited amount of that data. So therefore, it's really important for us to hone in, where are we focusing when it comes to reading the body language of others? So the first of these is facial expressions. Yes, facial expressions. Why is the face so important? Because the face is one of the clear sources of data when it comes to reading people's body language and their emotions. You know, part of this is in the groundbreaking research of Dr. Paul Ekman. Dr. Paul Ekman was one of the frontiers, one of the pioneers when it came to research on emotion. And one of his breakthroughs was this: we used to think that all emotion was culturally determined. And one of the things that he really found out through his research was, in fact, there are certain emotions, not all emotions, but certain emotions that are universal. And in fact, there are 7 in particular. And so those 7 emotions are anger and fear and surprise and disgust and contempt and happiness and sadness. Now, each of those give us reliable signals. And what do we mean by reliable signals? It means that no matter who you're talking to, no matter the sex, no matter which part of the world they're in, we are going to see signals in a person's face that indicate to us that they are experiencing one of those emotions. And so therefore, if a person is sad, what we'll normally begin to see in that person's sadness is that the inner eyebrows here are raised and the lips begin to droop on the side. Now, why is that important? It's important because it is data and information that is coming to us and helps us recognize what emotion they might be experiencing. Here's a critical point, however. While we may be aware of the emotion that they are experiencing in that moment, what we do not know is this: we don't know why. We may be able to say, wow, they're sad, but we don't know why they're sad. So those are the emotions. Now, it gets a little more fun and juicier as well, because that is what we call macro expressions. That's the fullness of the emotion. However, there are also expressions of the emotion where we do not want to let the other person know that we are feeling that emotion, or we may not even be aware that we are feeling that emotion. And sometimes they are expressed as micro expressions. These are emotions that fleet out in less than half a second. And what happens is they give us some signals that betray that that emotion is happening before we try and cover it up. And so if we are aware on the Zoom call and we're having an important conversation, and all of a sudden we're asking someone to do something and they are fearful of that, they don't want to do it, they think they're going to fail, and they begin to feel some fear, but they don't want to show us, what can happen is in less than half a second, we can see all those reliable signals for fear leak out. And so therefore, it's incredibly important that when it comes to trying to recognize what's happening on a Zoom call and the body language of others, that we are honed in on the face. And we're lucky, because let's face it, on a video conference, that's something we don't lose. It's something we're able to see right in front of us, a person's face. So it's a great space for us to pick up signals that are happening to us in the moment, if we can tune out all the other distractions and really focus in on what is happening in the face. So the second area of data that becomes incredibly important as well is this. It is our body language. And so our body language can also provide us with some useful data as we are trying to explore how the other person is feeling in that moment. Now, There is a difference between body language and facial expression. And in the facial expression, remember, we talked about some of the universality of some of the facial expressions. What we don't find, however, in our body language is that universality. So we have to be very careful because body language is very culturally determined. What becomes critical, however, is changes in the baseline. Now, what do I mean by that? That means that whenever we come on the screen, we're behaving in a certain way, and we're having conversations, and all of a sudden we can change. All of a sudden, for example, if we're sitting in a certain way, and then we're having a conversation where there's a little bit of tension, and all of a sudden I'm moving away, that's a change in the baseline. Or I may be engaged. And therefore, it becomes really important for us to notice what's happening in the general body language of the person. Are they displaying an openness and a comfort? Or are perhaps they displaying something of discomfort? You know, it's really easy to see when a person feels comfortable or uncomfortable when it comes to looking at the screen. And so just be aware. You know, so often in the virtual environment, we're very distracted. There's lots of different things going on. And it takes a real skill to be able to notice how people are showing up from the very beginning, and then as we go on through the call, to begin to become aware of, are there any changes? Are they showing more gestures, less gestures? Are they leaning in, leaning out? Is their body language open or is it closed? All of this provide us with clues. Third and final point is this, number 3, the voice. Again, the voice in the virtual reality provides us with some incredible clues into what is happening. And so the tone or the pitch of the voice can give us some insights. For example, we know with the emotion of sadness that the tone and the pitch normally begins to lower. We know as well with anger that it increases. And so just listening and being aware of the voice can help us. I remember I was in a call a few weeks ago. There was someone who was, we had this general question asking, what are some of the things that you miss because of COVID? And the person was talking about how they had not seen their grandparents for over 3 months. And what was so intriguing was that if you would listen to his voice, you could feel the tone and you could feel the pitch of the voice getting lower, and you could feel the real sadness that that experience was evoking within him. So the voice can give us clues, but not just the pitch and the tone, the flow as well. You know, sometimes we're in the flow and then all of a sudden we introduce pauses and filler words like and ah, etc. Now, that could well be the person who is looking for some more time to answer a question, or it could be an indication of how they're feeling in the moment about where they're at in that conversation. Incredibly important just to pay attention to that. So there you have it. There are 3 main areas when it comes to body language. In fact, we're lucky in the virtual world, we get almost 2.5 what we see in the real world. In the sense we get their facial expressions, we hear their voice. We don't get their full body language, we don't see their full body, but still we can get enough if we are tuned into it. And that's the process. The process is, before we get in this call, to really reset ourselves so that we are tuning in to get the most of the data that will help us to read the body language of others. The face, the body, and the voice. Those 3 elements, those 3 trains of data give us so much information if we are able to use them and become aware of them. If you like this video, I invite you to watch the next one, which talks about building trust and confidence in the workplace. And if you've liked this video, I invite you to subscribe, to press the bell below, and you'll be reminded whenever the next video comes out.